Thanks, Sam and Sylvia. It was thrilling to get the invitation to do a version of Dark Sky here. And yes, our performers flew in from New York. They're very excited to be here. And they've created some material that has never been heard live. Yeah, just for tonight. So the photo and the one that you had of the forest kind of tell you why we're here. They are imagery by John Bulmer, who is a Dark Sky International advocate and a photographer. And his photos are kind of the star of the evening. We have a lot of talented people sharing their magic with you, but really, as Sam said, we want you to kind of sink into a contemplation of the night sky. And I know you might have just like rushed here in a cab late on your cell phone or been doing the Glow exhibition, but I think if you can be in more of a timeless space, especially during the music and storytelling, I think you'll be very refreshed at the very end of the program. So Fourth Wall is a new vocal ensemble on the scene in New York, but they've been getting raves, and the care that they take and the artistry that they share is amazing. And their leader, Christopher Allen, is not only conducting tonight, but he also is going to play piano. And they recruited Phil Moffa, who comes from the world of electronics, and he's a sound artist. And so, as I said earlier, they've come up with something completely new. Chris usually lives in the world of classical and symphonic, and Phil works in the world of electronic. And so when that comes together, it creates something that really I don't think has been heard before. So that's very exciting. The live music will start with a William Byrd set, and then there will be an incredible piece by the Finnish composer Kaija Saariaho. The opera recently did her opera Innocence, and she's just one of the most extraordinary composers and voices. And she wrote a piece called Nuit Adieu, Night Farewell. And I'm going to just quote what she says about it. It's about singing, breathing, whispering nighttime farewells. And it's a piece from 1991. And then at the end, Chris and Phil will take us out on some Philip Glass. Why not? And I think that to prepare for the program, really, as Sam said, you don't have to think about, oh, who wrote that piece or what's that performer's name, because you'll get a program at the end. There are some pieces that you'll hear by cellist Andrew Yee, pieces that she wrote and performed at National Sawdust in that performance that we did last year, and some work by Caroline Shaw. They're very, very good friends. And we'll have stories from John Bulmer, the photographer, and Aparna, who is going to join me on stage. Actually now, Aparna Venkatesan, please join me.
Hi, everybody. What a turnout, on a Thursday night. Thank you for being here to share the skies with us.
Well, the Exploratorium, Sylvia and Sam, as soon as the idea of Dark Sky came up, they're like, it has to be Aparna. Aparna has to join you. And I know that you have such an interest in music and storytelling, so I'm thrilled that you're part of this program. I thought before hearing a lot about your work and your expertise in advocacy, I just wanted to start by asking, when did you get really enthralled by and kind of fixated on the sky? Because it has been your path for your life, really.
Thank you, Elena. And again, thanks to the Exploratorium staff and tech folks who've worked so hard to make this happen, and to your vision too, your creative vision, and to all the folks from New York. When I was a child, I really loved math. Math was the fundamental language of the cosmos for me. And I loved how math expressed itself in the universe. So that was the beginning of my love for the stars. I think the cerebral knowledge of the universe is very precious to me, but the human experience has grown more precious for me as I've aged through every decade of life. Once in the previous millennium, I too was a teenager, and I was new to the US when the movie Thelma and Louise came out. And the movie was very good, but I also noticed the skies and the parks. And I didn't know where that was, but something in me was like, I want to go there. And I saved up money and found my way to Utah and so enjoyed the national parks in the day, but I was unprepared for the jeweled skies at night. And that is one of the first memories I have of truly dark skies, this feeling of just incredible richness, like you're falling up into this beautiful dome of stars. And it was really so amazing. I grew up in very congested cities in Asia, so didn't really see the skies much at all. Saw them in planetarium shows, but it was not an interior experience the way being outside is.
Now, I've heard you introduced as an astronomer and a cosmologist. Do you have a preference, one or the other, and can you explain what the difference is?
Sure. So an astronomer is a broader term, somebody who either professionally studies through research or professionally engages through education, teaching, and numerous other venues, engages people in the discipline of astronomy. And that's a lot of topics. It could range from studies of planets and comets to the very early universe to all kinds of branches of physics and astronomy. So an astronomer is a broader term. They could be observational or theoretical, taking data, building instruments to take the data, or creating models to understand the data. A cosmologist is somebody who studies the origin and evolution of the universe. So that's a very particular branch of astronomy and astrophysics, but one that, in my mind, dazzlingly unites the physics of the very small, that physics of atoms, which it turns out determines the fate of the universe and actually why we are here, because of nuclear reactions in the sun and other stars. So, yeah.
So did you have a preference between the two? Cosmologist?
Well,
You'll take either?
Yeah, I'll take either or both, yeah.
Well, one thing that I know you talk about, because you do a lot of interviews and really raise awareness in the general public, but also within your field, you like to talk about spaciousness, and this is an evening that really invites spaciousness. And I know you say that the sky holds all of our identities, and I'm wondering if you could share more about that.
So I think we live in times that feel very shrinking. The headlines make most of us want to shrink. A lot of world events, if that's all we paid attention to, it's a feeling of just, wanting to go numb or shrink. So I think for me, spaciousness is not just remembering who we are. We've all been together for 14 billion years, right? We've all been together from the very beginning. So remembering that spaciousness of place, but also of time. What is the rush to develop bases on our companion of over 4 billion years, the moon? Why not take the time to do it right and to do it in a way that doesn't maybe contaminate the surface? So there's that aspect of spaciousness. And you had a follow-up question to that, which was that the second part.
The sky holding all of our identities.
The sky holding all of, exactly. So although trained as a scientist with the skies, the skies also hold space for all of us as musicians, documentary filmmakers, of whom there's a number here today, storytellers, artists, environmentalists, and more. The sky is that integrative arena for all our identities. We relate to it in many, many ways. And I also just think the ways we relate to it through music, art, storytelling, scientific papers, heritage, language, right? It's something that makes us, something that makes us deeply human. There's something in the way we relate to it that is an important part of how we are human.
And I know that you view darkness as a place of creativity, and it's connected to different origin stories.
Yeah, so I think most of the time these days, darkness seems a place to be feared or avoided. Now, when we do advocacy for better lighting or for dark skies, we try to affirm with communities we're not promoting no lighting. We know people are concerned about safety and security. We just try to promote better lighting. So when we do that, we also try to honor that in many cultures' origin stories, including a number of Oceania cultures, the Maori term te kore, which is the void of potentiality, or the Hawaiian genealogical chant, the Kumulipo, over 2,000 line chant, starts by referring to all the kinds of darkness because, and this is something that it has in similar and parallel to the Big Bang Theory, just for a moment before there was light, there's this darkness that held the potential of all the outcomes, all the universes that could be. So it's this very fertile, rich place of creativity rather than a place to negate or fear. So really embracing darkness as creativity.
There's something about interconnectedness that I wanted to ask you about that you really track that has to do with food sovereignty and also pollinators. How does that affect, how does everything affect everything else, basically?
Yeah, well, even if we live under dark skies ourselves, and we're fortunate enough to have that, we are impacted by light pollution elsewhere in the world. So one example is pollinators and migratory species, including birds, bats, turtles, and many other species, are very impacted by light pollution, and it's changed the way that they migrate, but also the paths that they take. There's now data showing some species of bats doing big detours around brightly lit cities. And other bats are more complicated. There are other bat species that seek the light. If you ever go to Las Vegas and you see that light beam from Luxor, it's dense with insects drawn to the light in that light beam, but around it is a batnado of feeding bats. So some bat species are just kind of drawn, but others avoid. And pollinators, especially in the West, that's mostly bats, are very sensitive to light pollution. So that's that interconnectedness. There is no plan B to pollinate our crops and our food, right? We can't go around mechanically pollinate. We rely on these species. And another interconnectedness I'll mention this particular year has two long-term cycles ending. Solar maximum, which is a once in 11-year cycle where the sun reaches peak activity, which happened the last 2 years. That's why there's been so many spectacular aurorae, sometimes reaching down to low latitudes. So that's an 11-year cycle. And then there's a longer cycle of the moon that's also ending this year called a major lunar standstill. It's an 18.6-year cycle, which is from the precession of the moon's orbit relative to the angle of the moon's orbit around the Earth. But essentially at the peak of it, the moon traces out within a month, its rise and set locations span a greater width on the horizon within a month than the sun does all year between its solstices. So it was pretty dramatic here at our latitude, but it was extremely dramatic at northern latitudes. But again, if we recast our lives in terms of these milestones, like I will share one of mine. I was pregnant with my first child 2 solar maxima ago. And when I told that child, who is now 22, that he'd be 40 at the next major lunar standstill, he was slack-jawed. You know how when you're young, you can't imagine being over 30. 40, like it's just, but it's interesting to recast our lives this way. Yeah, that's right. Something that connects us.
Now, I know these are abiding interests, and you do a lot of advocacy. I understand you founded the Center for Space Environmentalism earlier this year. to help protect the sky and to advocate for things that should happen. I'm just wondering, there's so much kind of occupation of the sky and unregulation. So what is it that this new center that you have founded, what do you aim to do and how?
Thank you. I have been so honored to co-found the Center for Space Environmentalism last March. We're not even quite at a year of age with Dr. John Barentine, who will come up a little later in the program, and also 10 of the most brilliant, heartfelt, empathic, awesome colleagues it's been my joy to work with. So our current goal is to simply share. There's such a large range of research and advocacy topics, but the agencies and the websites that kept track of all of that are disappearing. They're either closing or their websites are gone overnight. So our goal is to share an unbiased research repository on the issues and to also promote advocacy of the space environment. We are in the process of beginning to become incorporated as a nonprofit, then begin to fundraise, and then we will be able to take on, because many of us have worked in this field for years, we have done a lot of advocacy with branches of government and global institutions and global governments. So those pathways and relationships are in place, and then I think the real advocacy can begin both through institutional channels, but grassroots channels, because in the end, grassroots pressures is what makes grass tops yield. So I do think the grassroots pressure is important, yeah.
I actually mentioned your colleague with whom you've created a term that resonated around the world. Can you share how you came up with the term and what the response to it has been?
Sure, thank you. So Elena is referring to the neologism, the new word noctalgia, which is a Latin Greek word literally meaning sky grief, which John and I coined about 2 years ago. And like all creations and children we happen to make, it's gone on to have its own life. It's been kind of incredible. We wrote this one pager out of sorrow for the loss of the home environment of our shared skies, but it's gone on to have dozens of museum exhibits and art exhibitions with Noctalgia as theme around the world. So many musical albums ranging from jazz to, I kid you not, atmospheric Swedish heavy metal. And when I listen to those guys scream for 6 straight minutes, I'm like, yeah, that is how it feels, the fight against light pollution. And then it went from that to so many books that use the term noctalgia, ranging from sensory tourism to menopause. So I was really kind of amazed. It went on to have a life of its own, and we can. Is this a good time to bring up those images? So maybe we could bring up the first image. So the next couple of images are created by UK-based artist Beth Ann Maddox, who created rotating nested ecological orreries. So I didn't know what an orrery was. I'm going to tell you. An orrery is a older mechanistic nested sphere representation of planetary orbits. But by creating these nested ecological orreries, Beth Ann showed how all the creatures impacted by light pollution, how we're all connected to each other. She created this for the 10th anniversary of Northumberland Dark Skies Park at the border of Scotland and northern England, and I went there for the opening of the show. Next one, please. And you can see there's a lot of detail here of all the creatures impacted by light pollution. Next, please. And then you can also see there's a lot of human-made objects introduced as well. In the outermost ring or sphere, you can see some telescopes and the space shuttle and so on. But I have to tell you, one of the great surprises, and I'll let Elena speak to this more, is that we inspired Trestle Brewing Company to create a black lager. And I was blown away. And I think they actually hired a writer who wrote 4 paragraphs on the age of the Anthropocene and how humans are changing the environment. A 4-paragraph write-up, and it ends with this plaintive call to, may you enjoy skies with your loved ones as dark as this black lager we have lovingly crafted for you. So did you want to add to that, Eleanor?
Oh, yeah. So, first of all, when I asked them, can we show a picture of your black lager? They're like, great, we can sell some beer. And they were so happy that Aparna was talking about their beer. But it says on their website, we hope that you can create meaningful connections under the stars and embrace and conserve the darkness, which is just so sweet. And so the founder also told me that last week he was in a newly named Dark Sky Park in Texas, camping. So he's hardcore. Yes.
Yeah, I just think it's incredible, really, that, I just think for so many years, starting from the pandemic, but even earlier, there's been so much crisis. We're all in crisis fatigue, and we're all still grieving from the pandemic, let alone everything that's happened since, all the wars and conflicts and developments in the world. And I've just absolutely loved that people didn't get bogged down by grief, but they treated it like this rich peat bog and got creative and made all these things.
Just referencing the Swedish band. So if you want to listen to the track, which I did, the band is called White Thorn and they do cosmic black metal. But you talked about the rage. What was interesting, they also had lyrics that talked about the beauty of the night sky and the loss of the night sky. And then they had really angry lyrics that this could be disappearing. And an artist that I work with, Gabriella Smith, she's a National Scientist Mysteries called Lost Coast, and she used a big hiker. So she would hike the whole Lost Coast, north of us, by herself for 2 weeks. And then she wrote this piece that she performs with electronics, her voice and cello. And she would say that it's about the beauty and the rage. And you see all of these things happening. You're very active talking as well about all that space debris and things that are just left up there. How do you retain your optimism and your hope to keep advocating for the things that you do? Everyone has their bigger container of mental health. And for me, it's the skies. It doesn't even need words, simply laying out under the stars. Of course, we have to be able to get to such dark skies. And I think wanting future generations to know we have known for millennia, it will just getting ever harder to get to. But I think what gives me strength and hope is the incredible privilege of working with the future every day. My students, I'm so grateful to be a university professor. I love my students. They keep me accountable to the future every day. And my young adult sons too. My sons and my students act every day like they have a future and they still have a world to aspire living in. So I want to back that play. We're going to hear some stories from Aparna in the performance part of the program, and they come from a podcast called Nocturne, interviews that Aparna did with Vanessa Lowe. And there are 2 episodes, and the second one, Aparna covers so much ground and shares a lot of personal stories and insights. So I just encourage you to listen to that because sadly, we have to grab our part of it because we get to listen to some amazing live music. I just wanted to say, we talked about Chris Allen and Phil Moffitt. For fall tonight is featuring Elise Albion, Brianna Cockrell, Tomas Cruz, Paul Chen Cholan, and contributions from John Romer will continue to see karaoke, Andrew Yee, Caroline Shaw, Avery Lee Grouse. And I would just say, Aparna, thank you for spending some more time in the Exploratorium. Everyone's always happy to see you. And I would just encourage you to just sink into this space and enjoy the imagery and these extraordinary performances. And I just want to thank again the Exploratorium for inviting me and Jeff Tang to be here to do this program. And really, I know upon much of the tech crew has been amazing because we asked them to do a lot in a very short period of time. So I just want to welcome the artists on the stage and just really enjoy. It's been really
I think it's possible to look up at the skies and to really appreciate truly how ancient we are. We are ancient, right? I just giggle when people ask me how old I am. I'm like, we're all 14 billion years old, right? And we've been together from the start. So, sure, this fleeting arrangement of atoms is 52 years old. But really, we've been together from the start. So I think it's possible to look at the skies with the eyes of a scientist, but also a poet and storyteller and mystic.
So this is Comet Neowise above a farm field in Schaghticoke, New York. And in that farm field, you see lightning bugs. I call them forest stars. These beautiful insects only have a short window during each summer to dazzle us with their light. Every time I share images, everyone commiserates about the fact that they believe lightning bugs have disappeared. Fireflies base themselves on natural rhythms, but by and large, they're going down because if you're an animal looking for a flashing light, and there's always flashing lights, how do you effectively mate? Most people have never seen a truly dark sky. A child that sees 250 stars right now will only see 100 when they're an adult. So we're losing our night sky. When I was younger, I remember driving in my car and you would get to someplace and the windshield in the front of the car would be crushed with thousands of insects. That doesn't happen anymore because the lights are no longer on a natural cycle.
Night. In the air, the light flies out of the ground into the darkness and spits it into the air. Night, harsh in the ground up to the edge of the trees. Night, you have come. Lights have advanced over the grass, the slopes devoid of light. The lights have become dark. In the grass seed, waves of light cling to the earth in the darkness and spit them out onto the grass. Deep night up to the edge of the trees beneath the ground. That's what night is. A dark, holy head of hair. The light is only to define it. Thus the first night gave way to day. Farewell. Farewell, granite. You will become a flower. Farewell, flower. You will become a dove. Farewell, dove. You will be a woman. Farewell, woman. You will become pain. Farewell, man. You will become belief. Farewell, you who will be all love and prayer.
once it's gone, it's gone. Right. So I don't know if we can gamble with that. Our night sky, our open spaces, our climate, they're all going away. Our circadian rhythms as humans are being affected. Our lifespans are being affected by artificial light. You can at least improve your own quality of life and your neighbor's quality of life by having more educated lighting practices, either in your home or around your home. And then talk about it. There are people who absolutely will spend their entire time working within Dark Sky to help their towns, cities, and municipalities change their lighting procedures. The good thing about light pollution, you can make instant impact to it with small changes. Everything's interconnected. So an insect can go extinct somewhere thousands of miles away that affects a food chain that somehow feeds into your daily life and your daily quality of life, or some forest that has some sort of pollen is demolished, and now the flowers or the fruit that you rely on is now in danger.
I understand this might take a while, but I think if we could land on a view that we are here for the long term rather than this short term, extractive, and panicked mentality, then I think we'll land on the view of us belonging to environment rather than environment belonging to us. One of my personal goals is to grow people's sense of investment in the skies, personal investment, to see this as a story that is still unfolding and that is their story. I see this as a journey of reclamation of the ecology and environment of the skies, as a reclamation of the ecology of our human selves. So it's a reclamation of our wild and ancient selves. And I think by going out under the stars, by writing our own stories, it connects us to our shared ecology, our shared hope that we will continue to look upon what we've always looked upon, and that we want that for the future.